babies cry, it's all a lie, music can't take a fall.
For the Museum of Uncut Funk, we're here with the Aleems, two brothers who have been in music for 3 decades, at least.
At least.
Right? You know, from the inception of yourselves as musicians, playing with various artists from Bobby Womack to Jimi Hendrix, among others, moving into the field of production as well as being artists yourselves. So just, if we will, we just kind of sum up a little bit the journey of the Ghetto Fighters and talk about their inception, your days and your interaction with Jimi Hendrix, and just kind of bring us up to speed now with the new idea of the animated comic that is Mojo Man.
Right. Okay, well, I'm Taharka Aleem. And as you mentioned names, I mean, just the fact that when you mentioned Bobby Womack, Bobby Womack wrote our first song, Come and See About Me. And that was back in the 50s. No, I'm sorry, 60s. I mean, we actually go back to the 50s because I think the first concert that we did a show at the Apollo when we were kids, you know, and this was back in the 50s. So I do go back to the doo-wop. We do go back to the doo-wop era.
Yeah, amazing that, I don't know, the late Jimmy Castor, Jim lived in our block. I don't know if you're familiar with Jimmy Castor's work. He was working during the time when we were coming up, and that block was very inspirational, you know, inspiring to us as far as music is concerned, because Jimmy Castor was working with Frankie Lyman in that block, and my brother and I used to, you know, be very close friends with Jimmy Castor. His uncle owned the candy store, and my brother and I used to sell papers for his uncle. And on the weekends, Jimmy Castor would work, and we would talk, and we would have a pretty good time. So we was influenced by a whole lot of music in that block. And on the corner, there was a hotel called the Woodside Hotel. And the Woodside Hotel, if you recall, all of the
Well, Count Basie did a song about it.
Did a song called Jumping at the Woodside. Mm-hmm. And when any of the jazz or any artists would come in to Harlem to do a show at the Apollo or at Cotton Club or any of those places, they would
frequent the Woodside. They would frequent the Woodside
Hotel. So my brother and I, when we were very small, my father used to also go into he would also hang out because they had a nightclub there. Mm-hmm. So my father would be frequent there at times. And my brother and I would always go there, and we would see all of they would jam.
Well, you see Basie, you would see people like
Ray
Charles, a lot of the Miles Davis, and a lot of the jazz, bebop jazz people from that era, Cannonball over there. And so it gave us a real feeling of a rich musical background to actually launch from.
And plus my mother and my grandmother were both musicians. My mother was a pianist, and so was her mother, and a teacher. You know, they taught music. So we had a pretty rich history even prior to running into Jimmy. So when we ran into Jimmy, it was sort of like we were somewhat prepared.
Right. Your foundation was laid.
Our foundation was laid pretty well. You know, we also had worked with a group. As a matter of fact, that's how it actually happened. We were working with a record company called Rojack Records. It was an independent label in Harlem, ran by a gentleman by the name of Jack Taylor, who also ultimately, as time moved on, he started a nightclub called Harlem World, and where a lot of rappers and a lot were small. However, during this time, we were working with people, a lot of blues artists, one of them being Big Maybell, who was a fantastic singer and gave us a lot of production experience and ideas. So again, by the time we reached Jimmy, who also was part of the quote-unquote Harlem World Rojack experience, we were prepared.
Good deal.
That was a long story, wasn't it?
No, that was a good description. Thanks for that. Thank you so much for sharing. So, with all that profound experience and all those influences from parents of different members of the family, the Ghetto Fighters. Where'd you get the name from the Ghetto Fighters?
We were with Hendrix, as a matter of fact. There was a gentleman by the name of, well, I don't know if I should, well, yeah, because I'm sure he would like that. His name was Mookie Jackson. He passed on maybe a couple of years ago, and he was involved with promotions, and he was promoting a show at the, where was this place? It was on 34th Street. I can't think of the name of it right now. And he was using Hendrix's name, and Jimmy,
Without Jimmy's
permission to promote, because they were doing that during those days, you know. And then if the artist didn't show, the promoter would say they would get all of these people in to the house, get all the money. It was a scam, you know. And then all the people would come in and they say, they blame it on they would blame it. However, they never had a deal with the artist, and so the artist would get a reputation as being a no-show. But so this guy was promoting Jimmy's image and likeness for this show, and we happened to run into him
As he was putting up
as he and his people were putting up posters around Harlem and in the area. And so Jimmy ran up on the guy, and Tune and I knew him to be gangsters, because knew them to be gangsters in the area. And so we feared for Jimmy, and we went up, and not only did we know the reputation of the guy, but we also knew him. And the guy knew us as well. And it could have turned into a major altercation. However, it didn't, fortunately, because of Jimmy and his ability to be able to, see and, dissect the scenario, see exactly what was going on. And then he said, okay, I'll do your show, because it was really...
Well, prior to him, Jimmy conceded. Jimmy witnessed Tahaka and I getting a little vocal and verbal with the guy.
Right.
And the guy said, hey, listen, man, y'all taking sides with him now? I mean, y'all nothing but ghetto fighters, and y'all always be ghetto fighters. And we took that as an insult, that you will always be, and that's all you are, So he said, when he said that, Tahaka and I, so we had words. And that's when Jimmy sort of seen that it could have gotten out of control. And he decided to diffuse the whole situation.
By saying,
okay, I'll do the show. So when he did the show, we asked Jimmy why.
Why would you concede?
It's the best thing. And by the way, I like that name.
Ghetto Fighters. That's what y'all should be called. And from that point on,
we were known as
the Ghetto Fighters.
Gotcha.
So he took a negative situation
And turned it into a positive.
Poison in the medicine.
Right.
How about the music that you made with Jimmy as the Ghetto Fighter? Some of the things that you recorded.
Well, we were fortunate to do 3 albums with Jimmy. Well, 3 songs for the album. 3 albums.
Well, we did 3 albums with him. Cry of Love, Rainbow Bridge, and War Heroes. Ultimately, they turned. Is that a stop?
Keep
we'll
rolling, it's cool.
We keep rolling. Ultimately, we did 3 albums with him. Cry of Love, Rainbow Bridge. Well, they were named because these were songs that he was doing, and they didn't actually get released until after his death. Because he was moving into a whole new concept, a whole new style, and plus he was also producing us as an act ourselves, Ghetto Fighters. We had did a movie not too long ago, a documentary, and it's called Havana New York, meaning Havana, New York, and the influence that our music, black music, has had on Cuban, and especially hip-hop. And of course, we began to, once my brother and I got involved in the situation, we shed light as to even hip-hop and what that, the roots of hip-hop and what that actually is. And one of the things about it, one of the points that they were trying to make is whether Americans and, you know, the black Americans over here, did they sell out? Did we sell out with our music?
Because our music originally was revolutionary. It was hip hop was revolutionary, and it was getting a message across, and that's what sparked a lot of those little islands like Cuba and them to gyrate towards it because of the message that they had on it, and they felt as though now that message is diluted, and what's happening, they call hip hoppers over here sellouts now.
Right.
Yeah.
So and they continue to use hip hop as a means of getting messages, and
Positive messages
and
to
stories
uplift.
to uplift and to accentuate on the revolution as they see it. And so our whole thing was, you know, that's music itself. That's the wish of music, because even when we go back to Mojo Man, the story, the concept of it is the life that's within music, what music really is and what music's wish is all about. And the concept of music being a force that has a desire and has a need to get its own message across outside of what people put on top of it. And so the power of that is what is trying to become influential, music itself.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
With that, just expand a little bit more on the journey of Mojo Man. What can fans and friends of the music expect to see in the piece?
You want to do that? Okay. I think that the concept of Mojo Man is really basically the experience that my brother and I had with Hendrix. It's kind of extraordinary to a certain degree, because just being with him was extraordinary. He was a very interesting person, and his relationship with music was not like that of other people's. He had a very personal relationship with music, and he exposed us to that relationship. And we, with Mojo Man, through Mojo Man, that was our attempt to try and actually reintroduce, I guess you would say, reenact our relationship with Hendrix and Hendrix's relationship with
His
music.
introduction.
And his introduction
to music, the life, the living force of music to us.
Okay.
Right, and so our intention is to reenact again those stories through animation, those experiences. We used to find ourselves talking about it as though it was like an abduction, you know, to a certain degree, as though we were being abducted by these forces of music, and Jimmy was able to invoke these energies. When we would talk about it, we found that it would make us, we would look at each other and say, "Oh my God, we sound like we're crazy here." And so we decided maybe
we were on a trip or something.
were you tripping? You know, were you on a trip?
Yeah,
Well,
we were
whatever.
on a trip.
Yeah,
Whatever.
whatever. It was a trip. Yeah. And so, but we decided that, you know, to take out all the mystery of it, we will put it into a form of a mythology. We would put it into an animation. And so what you're actually seeing was the experiences that we were having when we were with Hendrix.
We're talking about how you use animation and a way to incorporate Jimmy's presence, and in that same vein, with that same mentality, speak to this hologram of Tupac that you've created, and Dr. Dre has used the essence of that hologram in his live performance, and has mentioned wishing that other artists were also put into a hologram form like Jimi Hendrix. So speak to that.
Well, you know, the first time I think I really seen that done, I think there was a movie where they used John Coltrane. Are you familiar with that? It was a movie I seen with Coltrane. What movie was that, Tyler?
I remember clearly where someone took Coltrane's image and made it
And I was so impressed. I knew that that would be the future. You know, the fact that it comes as no surprise that someone used Dr. Dre used him, because I think I would have did this, and that's what we wanted to do with Jimmy. Exactly. So, you know, it's in the atmosphere. You know, it's no surprise that the minds right now are in tune to that frequency.
I think that reality came into existence in my mind when I was listening. See, because when you're listening to tape, old tape, 2-track, 2-inch tapes of Hendrix playing his guitar, it's a very interesting phenomenon, because you could hear the energy prior to him touching the guitar. It's an energy that comes from the electrical impulse that comes right before you touch the string, and you could hear this particular energy. And our whole concept was
you could feel it.
You could feel it. You could hear it right before he touches it. So therefore, if anybody wanted to authenticate a person and say, "Oh, is that?" It's like a fingerprint. You know, it's actually their fingerprint, the impulse, and then it touching the. So it can easily be identifiable. No one can emulate that particular person if you're able to get. Now the query is, are we able to actually take that impulse? Will we be able to one day extract that impulse and use that energy for whatever reasons we could use that energy for? So when we talk about holograms and we talk about things like that, there'll be ultimately times when we'll be able to, through music and through sound, that we'll be able to time travel. We'll be able to go into it. And that's why even when we listen to music, we're able to identify it immediately. It's like we hear music and we hear the creation.
Go back to your mother.
You can go back
cooking in the kitchen.
You can smell
with certain songs.
Right.
You know?
Because music in itself has the ability to create, to extend and go beyond time, and go beyond time the chronological time that we relate to.
Music can go seep into your dreams.
It'll sleep into your dreams, and you're going into, whereas nothing else can go into your dreams. Everything else will wake you up, but music, a song will go into your dreams. It'll become a part of your dream, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you wake up easily. It's not an interference. And so these are some of the things that we want people to really understand. And I think that ultimately we, through our mythology, we'll be able to expose and make people a little bit more aware of some of the other
aspects
of music,
other than the
commercial boogie and dancing.
Right.
Well, you know,
Not that that's bad too, but
there was all kinds of feats that we were able to do with music. You know, like there was some place where we were able to put a body to a soul.
Right.
You know, making it a kind of being, not quite a human being. So there was a lot of things that we were experimenting with music. You know, healing. Music has healing powers. It has teaching powers. It has all types of powers that we have just totally
neglected or abandoned.
Abandoned.
I think it's time to
and now what we do is we just sometimes we even just put negative energies on top of this positive energy.
Right.
You know,
and enslave it. We use music as a slave
to make money.
Right, or aggrandizement. So that's the sellout. So for our aggrandizement, you know, like I am, and then we're riding under this funky beat, you know. And
so it's all about
I. Well, what about this beat that is doing it? You know, so
what about this energy, this force?
This force
that you're working with. It's really working for you.
You know, and really was its whole objective was for you. because it came from you. It came out of your experiences in the diaspora. It came out of your cries. It came out of your moans and groans of your ancestors. And so now, it became a force. It became a power that you can use, or it lends itself to you, and then for your liberation to a certain degree, for your power,
Growth and
for your development, and you just use it to sometimes just make people
to enslave your own people.
to enslave your own people and to enslave those that anyone that hears.
Because anytime you sit around and call a woman a bitch, and you're going to do all kinds of negative things on top of the music.
Of a power, of a force so great and so willing and so
To serve you.
so willing to serve you, to raise you out of whatever your diabolical condition was prior. Then what you're doing is selling